What's up guys, and welcome back to Cam Crunch, where I help you guys get the most enjoyment out of your cameras. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about simplifying your photography process and why I think it's an important key to not only getting the most enjoyment out of photography, but also getting the most images that you're happy with. Before I start, I just want to remind you guys that if you guys like this video and want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe, make sure to hit that notification button, and make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Leave any questions or comments you have in the comment box down below, and I'll answer those as soon as I can. I think that we live in the best era right now. We have the most access to information out there, so we can learn anything we want in regards to photography through reading a book, listening to a podcast, reading a blog, or a photography website. There's so many ways in which we can teach ourselves how to learn any sort of concepts or techniques that we want to learn. It's all out there for us to learn. At the same time, it's also the golden age of cameras. We have the best cameras right now. If you buy a camera today, you might not have to upgrade that camera for another 5, 10, 15 years. So actually, the first key to simplifying your photography process is to learn as much as you can, to try out as many things as you can to find out what works for you. Read a bunch of blogs, try a bunch of new techniques, watch some of my videos, watch some of other people's videos, learn as much as you can, as quickly as you can. It's all out there. You just have to go look for it, look for the things you want. If you guys like portraiture, you can look for portrait photographers. If you guys like landscapes, that's all out there. If you guys want to learn how to use Lightroom, all of those tutorials are out there for you to learn. You can learn so much in a span of a few weeks. Also, in terms of gear, you can read a whole bunch of reviews, but most of the cameras that are out today, I have to say, are pretty good. Regardless of whether you're going Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fujifilm, Panasonic, Olympus, whatever camera brand you're using, most camera manufacturers today make amazing cameras. So the first step, again, is to learn as much as you can and to try out as much equipment as you can. But the key comes after that, and that is something that I've had to learn for myself over the past few years. I've always been a self-taught photographer, apart from a couple of classes I took in college, which were really film photography classes, and how to develop film and that sort of stuff. I'm a self-taught photographer. I started teaching myself when I was in high school. I started making these YouTube videos for you guys when I was in high school. I've always gone out and learned whatever I had to. I was always curious. I always tried to learn as much as I could, as quickly as I could. I wouldn't stop reading or listening to podcasts or watching videos until I learned what I needed to. But because of all of this information out there, because of all of these new pieces of equipment that are coming out on a weekly basis, we then get bombarded with so much stuff that photography seems so much bigger than it actually is. At the end of the day, photography is about capturing images that you yourself are happy with. And sometimes knowing too much, having too much equipment, all of that stuff can get in the way of you actually enjoying your photography. There is no right way or wrong way to do photography. There are many ways to achieve amazing photos, and you need to figure out which one works for you. Once you figure that out, you don't need to worry too much about all the other stuff that's going on. Someone might use Lightroom, you might use a different software. Someone might use a Canon camera, you might use a Fujifilm camera. That doesn't really matter. What works for you and what allows you to take images that you're happy with is what's most important. Because at the end of the day, people aren't going to be asking, or most people aren't going to be asking you, what camera did you take that with? What lens did you take that with? What software did you take that with? What settings did you use? What lights did you use? None of that really matters at the end of the day if you come out with an image that you're happy with. And again, this is something that I've had to learn throughout many, many years of taking my photos. There was a point after college when I stopped really taking photos for the most part, and that's because photography almost became too tedious for me. Sometimes I would take photos when I would go out, but then I wouldn't want to process them using Lightroom. I just didn't want to do that step. I just wanted to have the photos that I was happy with. Sometimes I wanted to use Lightroom or do some sort of, editing, but going out became too tedious, and there was always one thing or another that became too tedious for me. And I know that might make me sound like I'm lazy, But again, at the end of the day, photography shouldn't be something that is too stressful or too tedious, especially if you're not a pro photographer. If you're a pro photographer, of course you got to do everything you can to get that shot that the client wants, and of course that you're happy with. But for most of us here, even if you're an aspiring pro, you know, we're about enjoying photography and taking photos that we're happy with, whether that's of our family or our friends on vacations, whether our hobby is, you know, taking photos of cars, whatever the case may be. It's about taking photos that we're happy with, right? So I sort of lost that for a while. But then two things came up where I really started enjoying photography more, because I didn't have to think so much about all of this technical stuff here and there. I could just go out and shoot. And the first thing came when I simplified my camera equipment. So as you guys know, I mainly shoot right now with a Canon 6D and two lenses. Those two lenses are the 35mm f2 and the 24mm f2.8 prime, both with image stabilization. Both are Canon lenses. And those have been my go-to lenses for many, many years now, ever since I got them actually. The 24 more so than the 35, but nowadays I'm shooting more and more with that 35 and getting more and more comfortable with it. And those two lenses really make up my kit. I might add something longer in the future, maybe an 85 or 100mm or something like that. But for now, those two lenses are all I need to take all the photos that I'm happy with personally. And that camera is good enough for me right now. There aren't really any times where I tell myself I need a new camera, except for maybe the rare time here and there where I need extra autofocus speed and accuracy. So I don't really worry too much about the cameras that I'm using right now. I'm happy with everything that I'm using. So that was the first step, simplifying my equipment so that I didn't have to think about it, so that I could focus more on my photography. And the second part came in when I figured out a photography process or an editing process that was simple, that was quick, that was intuitive for me, so that I could take more photos, process more photos, and upload more photos online and show off more of my photos. And that's when I started using the Wi-Fi on my Canon 6D. I started using VSCO or VSCO cam, and that allowed me to really quickly upload photos that I took. And that was very important, because that made me excited about photography. I didn't have to wait to process all my photos in Lightroom. If I had a good photo that I wanted to share, I could do it in a matter of minutes. It could go from my camera to my phone all the way to Instagram or to a website, whatever that was. It was quick and it was easy. So those are the two things, simplifying my gear and then simplifying my editing process. Now I still take the time to learn new things, whether that's new techniques, whether that's to read about new equipment. I still take time to read up on new things and to try to learn more. But the difference now is that it hasn't gotten in the way of my photography. If I want to take photos, I can just grab my camera, because I know what cameras I'm going to use. I know that it's going to be the 6D and the two lenses. And I know that editing and processing is going to be easy. Now in my last video I talked about why I shoot in JPEG now, but I still shoot in RAW. I shoot in RAW plus JPEG, and I always save those photos, those RAW files, just in case I need that extra processing using Lightroom. But the process that I use most of the time, at least, is uploading those JPEG files to my phone, where I edit them and then where I upload those onto Instagram. And again, it hasn't gotten in the way of those times when I need to take more professional work, things like that. So you need to find that balance for you. Some of you guys might love the editing process of using Lightroom and that sort of stuff, and might actually like taking photos less. If that's the case, then find that process that works for you. Maybe you can batch process your taking of the photos. Maybe you can find ways to make going out and taking photos more fun for you. There are many ways you can do that, but the idea is to just find what works for you and to sort of move the rest of the stuff, especially the distracting stuff, to one side so that you can enjoy photography more and so that you can take more photos that you're happy with. So that's the message for today. It's a little bit longer, but I hope you guys got what I was trying to say. Again, if you guys like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that notification button if you haven't yet, and I'll see you guys in the next video.